later anyway. So, game 2. Mario. You're playing with the black pieces. It's a Sicilian, the time on variation, as far as I know. Even though time on probably would be more like Queen C7. But I guess A6 also counts as the time on. Well, anyways, let's see what happens here. Bishop E2. Now you go Knight G7. I checked I don't know this Mario variation at all, actually. I've never seen this Bishop E2 move, even though of course it's one of the main moves, but I play something else here with white. And I checked the database, and here Queen C7 or D6 seems to be the main move, especially Queen C7. And Knight G7, I would look up this variation again. I think it's not completely sound. I only checked briefly about Bishop G5, as well as Bishop F4, Knight G6, Bishop E3, the computer quite likes for white. Again, I didn't look into this too much, but maybe you want to check this. Okay, Knight B3, B5, castle, Knight G6, Bishop E3, Bishop E7, F4, D6, Bishop F3. This seems all pretty standard. I mean, it's a normal position. The only difference is that the knight is on G6 instead of F6, so that's interesting. Of course, the advantage is that you're not running into any E5 stuff, attacking your knight. The disadvantage is that you're not putting any pressure on E4 and you're not supporting D5. So, well, we'll see how this turns out. Castle, Rook A1, Bishop E7, G3, Rook AC8. This is all looks very natural to me. Bishop G2, Knight A5 I also like. Standard maneuver, takes, Queen F2. But here, I think this is the first critical moment in the game. You could have gone for B4. Obviously, I'm sure you consider this move, but white can go Bishop B6. And now you have to play Queen H5. Probably didn't like that your queen was kind of running out of squares. But it all works out here, and white needs to play a move like Knight A4, when you could go maybe Queen B5, B3 and F5, and position is roughly equal. But I would actually prefer black here. I like black here. One important point is, of course, that after Bishop F3, okay, even if you play Queen H3, I mean, you're doing okay, but I understand that the Queen on H3 looks a little bit dubious, but you can go Knight takes F4 here, a nice little tactic. Because of the Bishop takes H5, you have the fork and pick up the piece next move. And after G takes F, you can go Queen G6 check, and then take on C3 next move. So that works. So, well, also a nice little trap, right? So B4 was possible. But okay, also after Queen C7, not much has happened. Except for now, obviously, it becomes much more difficult to play B4. Which still, I think, should be one of the main plans here for black in the position, to prepare with A5. So, for me, this looks very natural, to go Bishop C6, put the queen on B7 possibly, put more pressure on the pawn on E4, and then preparing A5 and B4. This looks quite sensible here for me. Okay, Bishop F6, also, I guess, pretty normal. Bishop Rook to D3, Queen B8. Bishop D2. Rook F to D8. Here, actually, you had the option available to go A5 right away. Because after Knight takes B5, you can take on C2. And well, you have the rook on the second rank. That's pretty strong, and you always have these Bishop A6 ideas, which is why white cannot take on D6. Bishop A6 wins material. So I like A5 here once again to go for this B4 break and put pressure on white on the C file. Okay. Rook F D8. Rook E1, now Bishop C6, Knight D1, rook d7. Yeah, I quite like this maneuver here. Rook d7 and bring the bishop to b6. But of course, okay, white doesn't allow this. Plays bishop e3. Queen b7. So there has been a lot of maneuvering so far in this game, yes? Queen d2. And here, as you also pointed out, you could have just taken on e4. Because of the takes, rook takes c6, takes. I mean, this is all pre-forced. You can just come back with the queen, and the knight is awkwardly placed. So white cannot support the queen on the d file. And after knight f2, you can go knight e7, bring the knight to d5, and of course you're doing wonderfully here because you have the safer king. The white king has opened up with the light squares weakened on f3, and you have a nice knight on d5 which cannot be attacked. So this is just a very nice position indeed. Yeah. Of course, this requires some calculation here, also to check that there's no discovered attack of some sorts, but there's none. I mean, white can do a discovered attack, but it's not effective. And then this is also about evaluating this position, and then maybe seeing this plan of going knight e7, going knight d5. But even if you don't see this plan, even let's say if you play bishop e7 here and then go rook d8, you're doing, I think, fine. But it felt like to me in many lines this knight on g6 is kind of the problem, because it's not in the game. The g3 pawn is restricting the knight, so getting it back into a game would be a good idea. Alright. So bishop takes e4 was a good chance here for a pleasant play. We went bishop e7, bishop f2, rook cd8, queen c2, and now you just go back rook c8, which is kind of a silent draw offer because you're allowing white to repeat moves. But it's also not helping your position, unfortunately. What I would like to do here is to go f5. Either play it immediately or play knight f8 first and to prepare f5 maybe. But I actually quite like f5, just go f5. Because I mean all your pieces are kind of well placed. Bishop and queen here on the long diagonal, the rooks are ready. So I think this was an interesting move, and if e takes f5, takes on g2. Of course this is quite a mess, but with this bishop and some ideas here on the long diagonal, it looks pretty strong for black, even though I think the computer says it's equal, but I would prefer to be black here, as it feels quite uncomfortable for the white king, doesn't it? So rook c8 doesn't seem to accomplish much here. It seems like more you're passing time. And in the meantime, white is able to improve his position. Queen d3. And now you go d5. Which is a mistake. Just doesn't work out well due to yeah, just a specific line. So actually in the game you go d5, and after e5 you go b4. So my question is, why not go b4 right away? What's wrong with this one? Go b4, open up some files and create some pressure on the queen side of white. And I don't see any problems here. I mean, takes, okay, takes. Looks pleasant. Looks pleasant. You have bishop b5 as an idea. I would definitely prefer to be black, even though I think most of these positions are still equal. But yeah, that's just my bias as a Sicilian player, I guess. So d5, the problem here is that white can just take, which he didn't, and then go knight e3, exploiting this pin on the d file. yeah, and bishop c6 doesn't work because of bishop takes c6, and in the end this one is hanging as well, so you're losing a piece. So knight e3 would have been a big problem here. You probably have to give up the exchange, but obviously white is better. You have some compensation, but white is up a full exchange and he's covering the g2 square as well. So this is just much better for white. So here, I guess you didn't check this e takes d5 move carefully enough, it seems to me. And neither did the opponent. He played e5, now b4, bishop d4. And here you go rook cd8. That's a move I really didn't understand. I would keep my rook on the c file. I don't know why you put it on d8 now. And here, well, few moves. Queen b5, bishop b5, or b takes a3, just taking the pawn here. Bishop takes a3. I mean, if you can take a pawn, why not, right? Rook a2, queen b3. Okay, maybe white can equalize, or he has enough counterplay here with f5, but it's white who has to prove something now. So, yeah. Here I think he could have chosen a different move, definitely, than rook cd8. Okay, takes, knight e3, bishop b5, queen c2, queen c7, h4. Yeah, now you go b takes c3, but you could have also gone bishop c5 right away. Because after b takes c3, you're giving white the option to take with the queen and to keep the b pawn as a passed pawn. And this would have been better for white. But he played b takes c3. So instead you could have gone for bishop c5 right away here. Okay, just a minor detail. Takes, bishop c5, queen d1, knight e7, queen g4. Yeah, but here, I mean, it seems you're a little bit too anxious. You're playing a prophylactic defensive move, king h8, when you could have gone active yourself. Take on d4, play queen c3. I mean, if this was a blitz game, you would probably play this immediately, right? Take on d4, play queen c3. Queen's so powerful here on c3, hitting d4, hitting d2, attacking e3, and white has to play a passive move here. He has to pretty much go queen d1. If he plays rook d1, you can go bishop a4. It's just very awkward for white. So he has to play queen d1 already. And I mean, even now you could go bishop a4, but white just goes queen e2 probably. So rook b7, rook a7, bring the rook over, and why should you be any worse here with your active queen, the bishop well placed, the white king also a little bit open up, so this looks completely fine. So yeah, just bishop takes d4 and queen c3. Okay, king h8. f5, e takes f5, yeah, you could have also played bishop takes d4 here once again, indeed, and after c takes d4, queen c3. Again, I mean, the queen is very strong on c3, so if you can get it to such an active spot, why not? And if queen takes d4, you can just take on f5 here, and you should be also okay. But I guess you, for some reason, didn't like something there, or maybe you were also low on time here. Yeah, probably you were, because it was the 39th move. Alright, takes. And now bishop takes d4, but a little bit too late, because now after queen c3 it's not as awkward for white anymore. You can go queen f2. Still, I think you should be okay here, but you have to be a little bit careful now. And here it's a critical moment. You play queen a3. But the queen is perfectly placed once again on c3, hitting d2, hitting d4. That means the white pieces are a little bit tied up. They have to defend each other, right? And by playing queen a3, you're lifting up this tie. So instead, king g8 was good, also to get out of any back rank checkmates and to prepare rook f8. And the position should be just equal. Yeah, should be okay now. After queen a3 becomes suddenly very uncomfortable. Queen e1, threatening checkmate. Rook f8, rook f2, and now you see what's possible suddenly, right? With your queen on c3, you could just take on d4, or, well, take on e1 or something. But now you have to defend. And here you make a mistake. You need to go rook g8, but already, I mean, it shouldn't have come this far anyway. But yeah, once it is, then you're suddenly have to walk a very tight rope. So rook df7 is a mistake. Takes. Queen e5, rook f8. I think your opponent missed a win somewhere here, but I didn't check it too carefully, because I mean, this analysis is about you. So you're defending here, still in the game. Rook g8, bishop takes d5 is a mistake. Check. But now you make a mistake. You play queen e2 check and go into endgame. But okay, the draw is not that easy to see if you don't have enough time. It's not that easy to see. Still, could have been seen for sure. Check, and now king h4 must be the move. And now just bishop f1 back, indeed. And yeah, the queen is defending h6 still, and if bishop takes g8, then check. Okay, king f4 is mate in 2, so king f5. But now you can take on h5, and that's all you need to see. Take on h5 and take on g6 next move. I guess the difficult move is that you're able to make a quiet move in this position, play bishop f1 again. That's the difficult move to see. Okay, and also white has g4, but now just check and rook d8, and you'll pick up the pawn on d4 and draw. Okay, so well, that's calculation for sure. That's calculation. Queen e2 check, bishop f3, takes, rook e8, king f4. Now your position is very difficult, of course, being a pawn down. g4, bishop e6. Yeah, maybe you need to play king g8 here, but in either case I think it's very difficult to hold this position. Play bishop e6. But now your opponent plays king e3, which is a huge mistake. Probably you both were tired or low on time, or both, most likely. And here, of course, you had the golden chance to save the game, just going bishop f7, taking on e5 next move, and there's nothing white can do here, and will be a draw. But unfortunately you missed this, and instead played the losing move here, king g8, after which white can just take on e6 and yeah, go into a winning pawn endgame. Yeah, very unfortunate turn. Yeah, very unfortunate end to a game. Yeah, and another loss. It feels undeserved in a way. Yeah, from the course of the game, also from the previous one, that you shouldn't lose those kind of games. Just feels like And in both games, one has to conclude, or have to point out, that you made a mistake very, very late in the game, in the end game. So maybe tiredness, fatigue also played a role there. I mean, most likely it played a role there. So also something to consider. All right, before I come to my conclusion, let me check the chat once more. Yeah, Mario, you're confirming what I thought. You played 2 long games and you were tired after playing 11 hours of chess on the same day, so you didn't see the bishop f7 move. Yeah, that's just crazy. That's how it is in the US sometimes, where people just love to play a lot of chess on one day. So yeah, that just happens. And well, it's just something, I guess, that you can work on with, I guess, doing those tournaments more often and getting used to still having your concentration up after a long game. And you're also saying, I did consider b4 earlier, what we saw, but you didn't see this knight takes f4 tactic. So this is again tactics. All right, so what can we conclude from the 2 games? I think openings were fine. First game, definitely, you got a pleasant position and you outplayed your opponent there, and you were strategically pretty much winning at one point if you had played f5. And in the second game, I would look into Sicilian a little bit more, but I think openings are not the issue here for you. I think the issue, well, I would boil it down to 2 things. Probably it's the time management. So there I cannot really say where you're spending your time, whether it's in the opening or somewhere else. You can answer that yourself best, for sure. But you need to have more time left when it comes to move 30 to 40, especially in the US, as they play with delay. And that's, I think, just 10 seconds. You're not gaining any time. So it's even more critical that you have enough time left, because once you have, like, I don't know, 30 seconds, you're just not gaining any more time until move 40. Whereas obviously in Europe, we usually play with increments. So after every move, you get half a minute. So it's quite different. And even if you're very low on time, you at least get half a minute. But if you're down to 10 seconds, you play a move and you don't gain any time, and then when your opponent plays a move, you only have pretty much 20 seconds left. That's, yeah, not so great in some positions, for sure. And of course, then mistakes will happen. So time management is the one thing, and then the other thing is just calculation and tactics training. Also with the other game where you played rook f8, just hanging a pawn on d3, just leaving this pawn unprotected. And also in this game now, okay, bishop f7, there was fatigue maybe, well, not maybe, most likely, and also before where you could equalize, but those are the critical moments. This is where you need your calculation skills. Those are the moments. I mean, it's the same in my games. This is what makes the difference. Can you, when it's time, can you find the right sequence? When maybe most of the game there is no, well, obviously most of the game there's no concrete way to either draw or win, right? Obviously. But then this moment comes. And then can you do the job? That's the question. And you need to be ready for this. And yeah, for that you need to be still be able to concentrate after a long game, and also just have this tactical vision, obviously, and this calculation ability. So yeah. my advice, as so often, is to do more studies, to do more tactics, and train that, obviously. All right, Mario, thanks for the games. I hope that was helpful, and let me know if you have any questions.